Oh,
All right. Good morning. Good morning. And I know that people that are like in the process of loading into the session can't hear me say good morning yet. So we'll give everybody a few minutes to get started. I know it's a Friday. I know it's day 5 of Rock the Year. So let everybody jump in. If you guys can do me a favor, just to make sure the chat is working, share your LinkedIn profile if you want to connect with other recruiters and just drop it in the chat. And don't worry, Kim, I'll drop your LinkedIn profile a little later on in the chat session so everybody can follow you and connect with you.
great.
And I actually made sure I hit the record button on this. We were actually laughing before we got started. Kim was part of one of the previous summits, and it was a Friday morning fire in the GovCon space, like right before we started. An offer blew up, and a whole contract issue was happening. So we got started. I forgot to hit the record button, so we got done. I went to go like hit stop record, and I just wanted to cry. So made sure I did that this time. But I'm excited to have Kim share with you guys, especially like MSP, like talking about MSPs. And that's just a world that I know nothing about, but it's a way that you can make a ton of money in recruiting. Because I know people that like once they get into that MSP world, they'll get like 100 contractors or 100 placements within a company. And that's just talk about working it smart for a huge bang for your buck. So excited that Kim's going to share, and I'm going to turn it over to her.
All right. Thank you, Ben. It is great to be back to the next Recruiter Growth Summit. And yes, we have hit the record button, so we're cooking with fire this time. I'm going to go ahead and share the screen here as I am talking. Okay, and I'm going to go and put it in presentation mode for everybody. All right. Hey, that went well. Okay, so first of all, MSPs, right? So MSPs came onto the scene, believe it or not, right around 1999. I started picking up a little steam 2000, 2001. And I think collectively we all kind of just, cringed and winced and said, oh my gosh, hopefully this just goes away. And this is like some kind of a fad, right? But fast forward, not only did they not go away, they have a stronghold, right? They have grown MSPs into virtually every single industry in staffing that we would encounter. And it used to be just your large national and global type companies that would have an MSP in there. But now it's actually starting to move more into maybe your mid-sized customers. So net, anytime a client has significant staffing spend, particularly in contingent labor contract, they're going to have an MSP in place. So the goal of today is just to kind of frame this, right? Instead of looking at them as the enemy or MSPs as like a four-letter word, change your mindset for a minute to think that, okay, it is possible to team with them and partner with them, make lots of money with them and make it productive. So that's a good way I think to look at it, and maybe not try to rebuff them and avoid them, but work with them where it makes sense, right? And so what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about some tips and techniques and approaches to MSPs. So you can go in and be successful, right? And determine the right ones to work with first and foremost. So think about what you can do different, what are your takeaways at the end of the day, what can you start doing, what MSPs can you start approaching and how. So with that, we will kick off. And guys, we'll try to make this as interactive as we can. I'll throw some questions out there at you, and then at the end we'll have plenty of time for questions. So, okay, real quick, guys. Just who am I? Why in the world am I even talking about MSP? So, a group of partners and I started with a national firm. I was there for about 14 years. And then a group of us broke off from there and started our own staffing company, organically grew it to about 100 million and then sold it to a global provider. Now, how we got to that 100 mark is, in all candor, a lot of it. We had mid-market stuff, but we had a lot of these MSP accounts nationally that we were able to go into and just get large volumes of headcount, right? Which of course translates into large volumes of revenue and GP. So this was like a key part of our strategy to be able to grow our company from that standpoint. So again, definitely sold the global and strategic accounts within MSPs, and also sold in the government space and SOW. And now I do training for the staffing industry. Okay, so enough of that. The easy slide, we'll start out super easy here, right? I feel like you can't tackle something and you can't even define it. And some people out there may be a little fuzzy on what an MSP actually does, right? So these managed service providers, they're of course outsourced agencies, and they manage the contingent work program of our client companies. And they also manage the preferred staffing agencies. And this is where we tend to get heartburn, right? When they try to manage us too much. But the type of folks that MSPs manage, contract and temp staffing, anything from IT, finance and accounting, light industrial, healthcare. The independent contractor population, right? There's still plenty of those that are within our customers. Payroll talent, a lot of times we see payroll talent. And then believe it or not, guys, MSPs can sometimes manage direct hire programs. It's not as common, but I have actually seen it before. Okay. All right. So what are the benefits? Why do our clients do this, right? Why do they do this to themselves? Why do they do it to us? And there's a lot of benefits, and some of them can be real and some of them can be perceived, right? I'm going to call out the first two bullets as they could be real or perceived. Clients think MSPs are given a reduced time to fill their roles. Maybe they can, maybe they can't. They think that they're going to give them enhanced access to talent. Again, maybe they do, maybe they don't, right? But by and large, MSPs, they take the client workflow and they streamline it, right? They manage and optimize the suppliers, and that's kind of the bucket where we all fall in and where we typically don't like it, right? We don't like to be managed or optimized into their model, but we'll talk through that as we go through it. Metrics, they can see what vendors are performing, how they're performing, and if they're not performing, right? So a lot of visibility. And then the one we all tend to shudder over is pricing and bill rate management oftentimes. Okay. Visibility of spend. Think about it, guys. If you're doing hiring for Wells Fargo, right, and you're spending millions a year on contingent contract labor, you want to know exactly how much your spend is so you can get it under control and manage it better. And then through the VMS, timekeeping, invoicing, reporting, management of their assets and security, compliance, right? It really helps. Think about it, guys. So many industries out there have compliance like healthcare, telecommunications, financial services. The MSP helps people stay compliant, helps our clients stay compliant with laws and regulation. And the net, the MSP is typically customizable to whatever the client needs, right? So, trick question here. Do you actually need an MSP in place to use a VMS? Everybody can just type it into the chat. Yes or no, yes or no, yes or no. Okay. Well, you don't. So guys, don't get caught in this trap. Sometimes you can encounter a client that's just using a VMS. They're just using the tool and they don't have an MSP in place, right? So if you see, these VMS tools like Fieldglass and Beeline and Simple VMS, there may not be an MSP in place, so don't assume. Sometimes they just buy the tool, right? Which makes our lives a lot easier. Okay, so we're going to get into the better part, what we really care about now. What are the benefits to us in working with an MSP? What are the benefits? Because there actually are some, and I know we tend to think of them as the evil behind the curtain, but there are benefits. Anyone care to type into the screen what they think might be benefits, and then I'll show us. Okay. All right. Well, guys, job orders are released via the web tool, which means less legwork for you. I mean, how many times do we get on the phone, we get on LinkedIn, we're like, trying to dig out names and go meet hiring managers, and we still have to meet hiring managers, but sometimes this can fast track us because depending on how they've orchestrated it, sometimes manager names will actually appear on the requisition. So it's much easier prospecting. You see John Doe's name on a rack coming out of the VMS, you can pick up the phone, hopefully, oftentimes, and go meet John Doe, right? Maybe you never even knew that he existed as hiring manager. So 2 key bullets here. Volume. Guys, I mentioned a minute ago, this is really how we were able to go and build a staffing company for sale is we were able to start getting these volumes of people on assignment, right? None of us like that churn and burn, place a person. I call it the hamster wheel. Place a person, start all over again. Isn't it much better to go and get volume opportunity and place, 10 business analysts or 10 inpatient coders or 10 staff accountants versus one at a time, right? Volume is really going to, resonate with you. The VMS also can cue you in to geographical and cross-sell opportunities. Maybe you have a client, guys, and you're starting to service them in Orlando, Florida. You start to look through the whole MSP VMS thing and you find out, oh my gosh, I never even knew this client hired in Dallas, Texas, and Atlanta, Georgia. So boom, right there, you have the open ability to go and start to service other geographical areas, which means more money in your pocket. And then this one, cross-sell. Let's say you let in with finance and accounting to, again, I'll just use Wells Fargo as an example. Next thing you know, maybe you're starting to see IT requirements through the system, and now you're going, let me start to respond to some of these IT requirements and set that up. So again, can really help you identify new geographies you didn't know about and opportunities for cross-sell, different departments, different teams, different business lines that you never knew. Okay. So I don't know if I've sold you yet, because there's more. The MSP process for workflow can help keep us compliant. How many of you guys out there, raise your hand, would agree that is staffing professionals? Sometimes, when it comes to the detail, whether it be us or whether it be the back office, sometimes we forget things. We get kind of lost in that minutia of the details and we don't like it. And from time to time, we can forget things. But usually the way the MSP and the VMS step us through everything, it keeps us compliant, right? They tell us when it's time to sign the contract or time to sign the work order or when and how to invoice or when to extend our contractors on assignment. So again, it cues us into all of this through the system so we don't have to remember it, right? And how many of you guys out there have had this stuff get forgotten or invoicing, this, that, and the other? Next thing you know, you're collecting, right? You have a collections problem, and we've all had to live through that. So something to be said for it helping us step through those compliance things. Okay, bullet number 2, you're going, God, that could be awful, Kim. It can be a really great thing. You never know sometimes how you're doing in an account until you ask. They're going to, of course, cobble together our performance metrics on a monthly or quarterly basis. It's a great opportunity to get in front of that MSP and get in front of that client and discuss your metrics. Maybe you're doing great, right? And it opens up more opportunity. Or maybe there's areas where you can improve and it opens up a whole other opportunity in and around that. So look at performance metrics is a good time to sit down with the client and uncover new business and learn what you're doing well, what you're not doing well. And again, maybe get you some new opportunity in the process. Key bullet. Guys, how many of you out there have supported one MSP and you did such a great job that boom, they opened the door to another to another client in their portfolio? Hey, Ben Mena, you did such a great job supporting us at HP. We're going to go and open the door for you at Verizon, right? It does happen. This is a key benefit to us, right? It happens more often than not. And then finally, MSPs can expose us to new industries. Sometimes we maybe start to work with, let's say we're working, just to throw a name out there, not that I have any, great love for one MSP over the other, but let's say it's Agile One and we're supporting them at one customer and they go and win a new healthcare client. Boom, we've never worked in healthcare before, but they open the door to us in a new industry. So again, guys, think of it this way. There's a lot of benefits that could come to us with a little bit of focus. Any other thoughts out there in terms of that you guys want to add into the chat? Anything that would hit you? Okay, if so, you can type it in and we can talk about it. Okay. So how do we sell to the MSP? What in the world do we do? How do we approach these beasts, right? So it's definitely, guys, like breaking into any account. It will take consistent follow-up and a lot of targeted touch points, and we'll talk about those targeted touch points. So consistency is going to be key. Guys, it's going to be usually the long-term mindset, the long-term game, like a lot of things in our industry. So there's not usually a silver bullet, but we'll try to go and net it down and make it as fast as possible. Okay. So in selling to an MSP, the way I approached it is four touch points, right? Four touch points that you do pretty much in tandem concurrently with each other. And well, and I'm going right past it. First, and we'll dive into each one. Contact the MSP at the individual program level of the client you're trying to get into. Okay. Number two, approaching MSP at the corporate level, right? Kind of going up the food chain because maybe you're trying to get into program A and you can't get in, but maybe you talk to corporate and they're like, well, we don't need you at that program A. We need you over here at program C that we just brought on. So it can uncover a lot of opportunities at a higher level versus just digging down into one particular program. So try both, right? Client leadership. Guys, we're going to have to get in front of the client leadership, and we'll talk about some ways to do that if the MSP's not fond of us talking to the client, which often happens. So we'll cover it. And then finally, like we do in every single account we try to break into, we build our coaches and our advocates that can go help us navigate, give us names, give us information, help us be successful, right? Okay. All right. So let's break it down. Break it down. Okay. So we have our little flow chart here. So contact the leadership team and the individual program. So we said that a minute ago, individual leadership team on the ground and contact corporate. Start to understand the basics of the program. Guys, this is a key bullet right here. Every MSP we contact will not be a fit for us, right? How many times have you raise your hand out there, type in the chat, have you kid yourself and said, well, let's just sign this customer on and we'll figure it out later. We know they're not a great fit, but we'll figure it out. Right? How many times did that blow up on you and you weren't necessarily a great fit and you somewhat crashed and burned and you didn't show up so well, right? So what I'd say is don't kid yourself. If it's not a good fit in terms of price, contact, process, geography, whatever it is, just chunk it. Don't go through the motions because what'll happen is you'll burn a bridge with that particular MSP because you don't show up. And then ultimately they won't let you into any other programs that you might have been a fit for, right? It's a key area right here, okay? But assume you think they are going to be a fit, right? You're going to learn about the steps and the process to be added into the program. We'll dive more into that, okay? And the way we look for this is the MSP is going to have challenges, issues, problems, and pain points just like a regular client would. We've just got to kind of expose them and help them out, right? Key point right here. And then show them the value that we can provide in terms of solving their problems. Because I guarantee you, they don't have it all worked out. So to begin, what I like to say, what helped me and help other people on my team when we were approaching MSPs is understand, just like you would a regular client, what's a specific niche or industry of the MSP that you're selling to so you can customize your conversation, right? So let's say you're Ben and you're working trying to sell into an MSP, and this MSP handles a DoD federal integrator like General Dynamics or Northrop Grumman or Honeywell or something like that. You definitely need to understand that industry so you can go and not only speak their language, but you need to understand the issues, problems, frustrations, nuances of that industry that they're supporting so you can have intelligent conversations about it, right? How many of you guys think in a way the days of being a generalist are kind of dead? I think if you approach an MSP with a very generalist mentality, it's going to lump you in with all your other competitors and you're not going to stand out. It's going to be harder to get in. So showcase yourself as an expert in that industry and know it, right? And study it. And it's easy to do. You don't have to be an expert. There's so much information online. All you got to do is Google and read, or go to AI and read and cite some sources, and you'll have a great basis of understanding, right? Even before you kick it off. So this one was really key, guys. It really helped me and people on my team. So I put a star by this one. Okay. All right. So selling to the MSP. So say we're on the ground level and we're now talking to the people that are running the program. Let's say it's the program for, again, oops, I'll just say Verizon, throw something out there. So we're going to try to reach out to the program director. And again, guys, if they're not, these MSPs all have different titles, right? If they're not responsive, just like we would any other customer, try other leadership contacts that you feel like you can go and get a hold of. And then starting to talk to them, goes back to what we said a second ago. Realize if you're a good fit for the program or not. Can you handle their locations? Can you handle their process, their pricing? Can you handle the compliance? Could be some heavy duty compliance, like if it's in the healthcare industry. Can you handle the skills, right? Or are you kidding yourself, like we mentioned a minute ago? So be honest. This is a good assessment point for you. Also, contact again the VP of programs at the corporate level so you can talk about entry into multiple programs or different programs, right? So they've got issues and pain points, like I mentioned. Here's a great entry point that helped me get into a couple of MSPs: geography. So let's say it's Disney, right? And let's say, their suppliers are supporting them great in Orlando, Florida, but let's say maybe their suppliers are falling down and not supporting them so great out in Anaheim or in Los Angeles or in Texas. So geography is something you always want to ask about. Do you ask about that as an entry point? Okay. If you do, great. If you don't, consider it. Where are all the areas that they hire and how are their suppliers showing up in those areas? Key one, guys. This is always the one of the key entry points. Skill sets. What skill sets are they struggling to capitalize on and receive from their suppliers? Are their suppliers struggling to follow process? Are they struggling with compliance? Right. Another area where they could have challenges is onboarding. Guys, I don't know about you, for everyone out there that's placing contractors, I find that one of the biggest complaints with our clients is that staffing companies fall down in onboarding. Onboarding can be clunky, it can stall, it can be kind of haphazard, it can be really, really challenging. So the MSP could be struggling with onboarding. Maybe their suppliers aren't good at it. They could be struggling with their suppliers messing up invoicing. That's a huge one. All admission, the place where I worked, we did not do a great job of invoicing oftentimes. We struggled with invoicing to get it right. We had to go at it time and time again and improve processes. So a lot of staffing companies have this issue, and the MSP could be fed up with this, right? It could be an entry point for you. Travel. A lot of staffing companies don't do good at travel. And for like healthcare, where you've got travel nurses and people like that, getting travel down correctly so nurses show up and people show up and perform their assignment and it's billed correctly could be a great pain point for the MSP, right? Retention. How many of you guys out here, and we'll get to a second, have a consultant retention program where you can have a program in place to keep contractors on assignment and keep them billable? Yes or no? Yes or no? All right. This is a huge differentiator, right? Because what happens if contractors get on assignment, they bounce out, the MSP is starting all over again. And they don't want to have to do that. They don't want to start all over again at filling the role. So if it's a problem and you've got something to tout here, like how you keep contractors on board, talk about it, right? And how you support them on assignment, how you remarket them or get them signed back on to get their contract extended. Talk about it because it could be a big pain point if you ask the question and determine it is. The other thing we want to know, how are they handling direct hire? Because two things I like to call it playing both ends against the middle, potentially. Maybe they're handling direct hire and they need suppliers under the MSP program to help them out there. Could be an entry point for you. Or maybe the MSP is not handling direct hire. That goes through internal recruiting, and that could be your doorway into the organization, right? How are they handling SOW hires? I did quite a bit of SOW work, and so did members of my team. Oftentimes, SOW programs, I'm going to say it, guys, we're running concurrent side by side to MSP programs. And if you can't get into an MSP, doing SOW is key. As an example, Google, they run concurrent MSP program, SOW program. Disney, they have an SOW program running side by side with an MSP program. So did HP Federal, an MSP and an SOW. So this is happening at the same time in your accounts where there's an MSP more often than you know. So that's a question that we want to start asking about statement of work project hires. Okay. Anybody ever do statement of work to get around the MSP? Anyone been successful at that? Yeah, you can type in the chat. Is it's a great way to go around them if they won't let you in. Okay. All right. Okay, so they're challenges, right? Here's some more things we can ask. What's their biggest obstacle and problem scaling their workforce, right? Because guys, let's face it, if they can't fill these jobs, they're out of there. The client's going to fire them. Okay, what's their biggest obstacle in scaling the workforce? How do they currently handle turnover or skills gaps that they're having right now? What do they do, right? When do they review their suppliers? This could be a great entry point. Because let's face it, they're going to review suppliers maybe twice a year, maybe once a quarter, maybe once a year, and they're going to eliminate some suppliers based on performance. So we want to know when that happens. Maybe we have timing on our side. And then, guys, we always want to know this. How do they scorecard? What are they looking for? Is it interviews, interviews to hire? Is it retention? Is it all of those things? Or is it just submittals, right? Because I would say to you, if they're just scorecarding suppliers based on submittals and throwing, paper into a VMS funnel, probably not a client you want, not an MSP that you want. So understand how they're going to scorecard you and determine if that's something that you can live with. Okay. Anything else that you guys would add here on that one? Okay. Key one here, guys. Key question here. Ask the MSP, how are you scorecarded or how are you measured by your client? What are some of the goals that you have to achieve for your end client? This is a key question here that I would ask. And they were usually pretty honest with me. I'm scorecarded on A, B, and C. Well, how are you doing achieving those goals this year and 2025 so far? How did you achieve the goals in 2024? Did you need some help or what areas were you challenged in? This is a great way to find an opening or a pain point, or maybe you can come in and help. Maybe it's compliance, or maybe like again, they're falling down delivering in Boise, Idaho, for their client, and they're about to, have their head, in a vice if they can't start to come up with something. This is where you can help. So always ask, how are you being measured? What are your goals with the end client? How can we help you achieve those goals? Could be a great entry point. Does that make sense? Anybody have some thoughts on that? I have to say, first time I've noticed this guy in the picture here looks like Steve Martin. That's crazy. I guess he's moonlighting his stock photo now. So another thing I think MSPs that my team and I notice is they want staffing companies that can help them reduce their risk, right? They're kind of risk averse. And what I mean by that is show how you can help them minimize risk. Show them that you have a process, right, to manage compliance, to manage backgrounds, to manage onboarding. Because I know you in as a staffing company have a process for this. Emphasize this to the MSP. They don't want to have to train you and show you how to do this. They want you to tell them that you already have it covered and here's how you're going to do it, right? And give them details on your process. Like let's say you're working a healthcare customer. How do you manage for HIPAA regulation, right? Or it could be any regulation. Depending on the industry. Let's say you're Ben and you're doing, DoD, federal government contracting. How do you manage for government FAR, for some of the key government FAR areas that we sometimes sign up for and have to manage? What's your process? Could be a great way into an MSP. So again, guys, focus on the return on investment, the ROI that you're going to give them, right? It's what's in it for them. Are you going to be able to give them better delivery than what they're getting? Better quality? Are you going to be more reliable? Are you going to have a better process to help them reduce their risk footprint, right? And then obviously showing them you have the ability to find this specialized talent for a niche, hard to fill type roles. Maybe you're great at finding travel RN case managers or inpatient coders or Java developers that have a security clearance. If this is whatever your niche is that aligns to them that you're good at, this is where you need to show that you're a subject matter expert and a specialist in this area, not a generalist, right? Okay. So what else do they want? What's another good way to showcase your wares to an MSP as we start to ask and learn their pain points? Okay. Oops, I almost forgot a bullet here. Show them you're scalable. Because think about an MSP, guys. Very important point here, and I almost forgot about it. MSPs have peak periods. So think about right now, anybody hiring accountants, busy, busy time. We're at tax season. Or think about healthcare systems. Healthcare systems ramp up in places like Florida in the wintertime because you have an influx of like snowbirds that come down. You probably have an influx of patients in hospitals in general across the country in the wintertime due to cold and flu and pneumonia and things like that. All these things require our peak periods, and it forces the MSP to have to ramp up to handle the cycle and handle the workload. So show how you're scalable and you're nimble as a company to be able to go and address these peak periods for whatever it is, accountants, IT developers, forklift drivers. Show them how you can. Okay. All right. So I mentioned another way of you digging out pain points with them, highlight and showcase your technology and automation and how that relates to them. What's in it for them? So what tools or what type of tech or AI are you using to recruit people, to qualify, to get them interviewed? And then what's in it for them? How do these tools translate to them and give them better service, make them more efficient? Give them cost savings, right? Is it going to streamline their hiring because you're using these tools and you as a staffing company can get people through the process more quickly, which means you're going to get them in process more quickly to the client. So again, key area here, and everyone right now is using AI tools or using various technology. Show how you're capitalizing on it and what's in it for them and how it's going to help them streamline their hiring. So any thoughts at this point, guys? If some things that you're thinking about that you do really, really well that could potentially help an MSP over their tough spots? Okay, I'm sure you have it. I'm sure you have it. And then, guys, emphasize how your solution is going to integrate with their tech stack, right? So, for instance, let's say they're using Fieldglass as a VMS. Pretty darn easy and good to say to them, assuming it's true, that you've used Fieldglass before, you've operated in it before working for another MSP, you understand the mechanics of that VMS system, and because of that, they don't have to train you, right? So they want to know you're going to integrate seamlessly and easily into their business model. Okay. All right. All right, guys, here's where more rubber hits the road. So we talked about showing them your tech and talked about showing them, your process to reduce their risk. Well, go a little bit farther, right? Solve their issues, show them that you're a specialist in that industry, and show them case studies. And I don't mean, guys, go out and create some grandiose case study that you're spending all kinds of time developing. But let's face it, whatever industry you're in, let's say you deliver to the DoD or you deliver finance and accounting, you've got success stories. And the success stories may not be with an MSP, they may be with individual clients. That's okay. Show them your ability to deliver, right? What you can deliver and quantify it. Let's say they need IT Java developers. Show them how you find them, how quick you find them, and what you've done. Quantify it. This is what they want to see, results that you've delivered for other similar type of clients, right? So it could be any of these things. Delivery. It could be cost savings. It could be retention. Show your stats here because I know you have them for other clients, right? And then finally, ask them to if you can work a trial or difficult job. And what I'd say here is if you do it, definitely be careful. Make sure it's a job you can actually fill. Because if you can't fill it and you've asked for it, then you could find yourself in a tough spot. So again, weigh out all the thoughts, weigh out all the information, and then if it makes sense, ask for that trial difficult job to go and prove your stuff, right? And then obviously conveying, as we mentioned, how you're going to integrate into their business operations without them having to train you or without you being disruptive to them, right? So we talk about value add and maybe the fact they're not going to let us in so easily. Again, if they're not letting us in tomorrow, provide value, just like we would a regular client. What type of labor or skill set or industry data can we provide to them that would be useful? What would be value add to them? And guys, have you ever asked that point blank to a customer or to an MSP? Hey, what can I do that would be value add to you? What do you need that would be useful to you in your job of managing this client? Anyone ask that? Incorporate that into your line of questioning because I guarantee you they'll answer it. So again, value add, set yourself apart from the competition, while you're waiting to get into this MSP. It's going to speak volumes. Okay. So focus again, the value. MSPs, I've learned, they're driven by data, they're driven by efficiency. If you can show how your solution is going to improve their service delivery for their clients, it's going to be a lot easier to get in there, right? Okay. So the MSP, conversely, they're going to ask you questions, right? They're going to want to know your ability to support their program. So I want you to be prepared. You need to speak their language. Here's what they're going to ask you, right? Ta-da, next page. They're going to know things like your annual revenue and labor categories you can service. That's pretty cut and dry. They're going to want to know what percentage of your current revenue is done through the MSP channel. And you may go, okay, Kim, I don't have any MSPs under my belt. What do I say here? Here's what you say. Let's say it's a healthcare MSP, and let's say you do healthcare for individual hospitals. Show those stats, show the results that you've delivered for those individual hospitals because this MSP manages hospital systems, right? So I guarantee you have customers that you've supported and done well at that you could go that may not be in the MSP channel that you could tout here, right? And it's a better answer than saying nothing. Okay. They're going to want to understand your delivery strategy. So let's say this MSP is hiring in 6 different cities. They want to know how you can go and deliver on it. You may say, Kim, I can't deliver in 6 cities. I don't have that recruiting bandwidth. Well, there's an answer to that too. What I have done in the past and what my teammates have done is if there's a particular office or location that we know we can't deliver in, we basically have said, hey, we'll support you. We can support you great in these 4 cities, but we, for whatever reason, we're unable to support you in Denver, Colorado. As we put our agreement together, can we exclude Denver, Colorado so we don't not show up for you and get a poor scorecard? So kind of being upfront at the very beginning and telling them the areas that you're strong in, and then maybe an area where you know you can't deliver, right? It's much better to be honest up front about that than kind of end up at the very end going, uh-oh, we never showed up. Okay. Insurance requirements, guys. I always try to negotiate these. Every now and then you could get a little bit of a respite from them, but MSPs do tend to have some strict insurance requirements. Ultimately, we were able to go and meet most of them and increase our kind of our insurance liability limits and things like that. But this is something that you may get a little sticker shock when you see some of the insurance requirements, but try to negotiate them. And then oftentimes you can raise your amounts with your insurance company, for minimal type of annual fee or no fee at all. So just something to be aware of. Okay. They're going to know prior success in other MSP clients. And again, if you don't have it, show something similar. We've got prior success in other healthcare clients or prior success in other DoD federal integrators. Show that. They're going to understand how you do your bill rate, right, guys? And that's just something they want transparency in the bill rate. So what I found is, math sets you free in a way, right? Math is objective. It's not subjective. So when I would lay it out, here's our pay rate. Here's what goes into our burden structure. Our burden structure happened to be 23%, right? All those things like federal and state unemployment, workers' comp, liability. And typically when you lay it out where, with what the costs are, math doesn't lie, and they understand that because they're in the placement industry as well. They're in the staffing industry as well. They understand that, it's not dollar for dollar. We're all working with a burden structure here. So again, I just pretty much gave, clear transparency here because if they were going to try to shoehorn us into like a 28, 30%, 35% markup, this is where you'll walk, right? If you can't come to an agreement on this and they don't value what you provide, they don't value giving you fair market rate for your people and fair rates for your people, then you're never going to be able to be successful in it. And this is where you'll walk. So be honest here and don't be afraid of this one, right? Because it could save you a lot of time on the back end if it's the wrong fit. Okay. Right. And then again, we talked about this. They want to know what type of tech tools that we're using for recruitment, onboarding, and training, and how that's going to help them streamline their operations. Okay. They're going to want to know about consultant care program. How do you keep contractors on assignment? Has anyone ever had this question? What cost saving initiatives have you provided the clients in the past? Type in the chat on that one. And let's face it, guys, you probably have provided cost saving initiative to clients so much so in the past, and maybe you don't even realize it. Maybe you gave someone a bulk hiring rate, or you gave them, somewhat of a bit of a discount for, hiring 10 people versus one. You have these case studies, you have these stories. So just start to kind of collect them and put them in your CRM so you can kind of go and extract them where you don't have to remember them. They want to know too, guys, what you can do that's different. What are you going to do that's different or bring me that's different that the other staffing companies aren't? And guys, what I'd say here, that goes back to their pain points, right? We ask these questions to uncover their pain points. Wherever their pain points are, that's usually where you can offer something different to go and help them through that and make their challenges go away. And then finally, the $1 million question, have you been removed from any MSPs in the past 3 years? So guys, we had been removed from an MSP. And quite honestly, it was a great opportunity to share with them the reason why. It was actually IBM. And it was a program that we should have never signed up for in the first place because the markups were so dreadfully low, we could not deliver to the program. And like I said earlier, we kidded ourselves and we made a huge mistake. And so basically, we just came clean and said, look, we can't support a program that has 32% markups. We thought we could. We couldn't make it work. We couldn't bring you the right talent and bring you the right value at those rates. So therefore, we weren't able to support you. So again, guys, it can also give you some good conversation points here about what works well in an MSP. And then there's always the elephant in the room on this one, right? Let's say they don't want any hiring manager contact whatsoever. Well, that's going to limit our ability to be successful in this program, right? And maybe that's something you want to do or don't want to do. And then, of course, they'll want your references. Okay. All right. So we talked MSP. Now we've got to meet at the same time with leadership, right? The client, the end client. How many of you guys try to meet with both? Everybody, yes, no, maybe? Okay. Here's what my thought is on the leadership. Leadership is basically they may have different problems, different challenges. They may not think that the MSP is getting it done for them, right? So try to set the meetings as you normally would, right? And sometimes you're probably saying, well, gosh, Kim, the MSP blocks me. Well, there are other ways maybe into the window here. You can meet with them under the guise of trying to do permanent placement business, right? We're not going through the MSP. We're going to talk about permanent placement hires. That's one that I used quite a bit. Or I would lead in with, oh, I want to talk to you not about the MSP. I want to talk to you about, project business statement of work. And sometimes that would open the door for me to go and meet with them. So yeah, they've got different pain points and challenges than the MSP does. Don't assume. Ask them. How's the MSP performing, right? Are they getting you the skills you need? Are they getting those skills in a timely manner? Are they servicing you in all the geographies that you need? Is the MSP retaining the contractors once they get on assignment? How is the onboarding process going? Does it take you a month to onboard people through this MSP? And how long does it take, right? How long are you willing to wait on this MSP? Because as you're waiting for the MSP to show up, what's the impact? What's the impact? I always ask this question. What's the impact to you and your team as you wait for these roles to get filled, right? Are people working overtime? Are you working overtime? Are people quitting because it's taken so long to find IT developers that they're working overtime? They're like, I'm out of here. I'm not doing this anymore. Okay. Is there contractor turnover? What are the difficult skills? So we can hone in on that. Does all their work go through the MSP? And I mentioned this earlier. This could be a great opportunity to ask about statement of work hiring, right? Because I'm telling you guys, concurrent to MSPs, more times than not, there's SOW work that's going on side by side, and it's known about. And the SOW work is typically it's a different budget. It's a different set of staffing dollars. So always ask if all their work goes through the MSP. Could be SOW. And as we know, it could be the perm hires too, right? The perm hires maybe aren't going through the MSP. Likely they're not. So guys, what about this? What's their hiring plan this year? How are they going to accomplish it? Let's say they've got to go and hire 50 staff accountants or, 38, IT developers or 50 forklift drivers or project schedulers or project estimators if they're in construction. What's their hiring plan? How are they going to accomplish it working through this MSP, especially if this MSP is already not delivering at the speed and the quality they need to? Okay. Then, Mr. Client, what happens if they can't find the talent? And this is where I like to just ask the question and shut up and listen, right? What if the MSP can't find the talent? What are you going to do? How long are you willing to wait? What's going to happen? And this is where they start to think, what I'm doing is not working. I may have a big problem on my hands. I could lose my job. I could lose customers. I could miss deadlines. So what happens if they can't do it? What are you going to do? Okay. So again, guys, it's creating some solutions so they can promote you to the MSP. How many of you out there in the chat, you can raise your hand, have actually asked client leadership to promote you and sponsor you into the MSP? Any of you guys asked that question and been that bold and that brave? Okay. My thought is this, guys. Questions are free. The worst that can happen is a no or it goes nowhere. Ask the question. Ask them if they would be willing to promote you to the MSP because you have the ability to solve their issues, solve their pain points, right? So that's one avenue. Avenue number two is, like we mentioned a second ago, talk to them about SOW. If they're not getting what they want out of the MSP, can we go around the MSP and still sell statement of work project business? Okay. A third option is, will this manager let you work a trial or difficult job? And instead of going through the MSP, just cut a PO for it. Have any of you guys ever gone the purchase order route? Yes, no, maybe? Type in the chat. Okay, so remember this, guys. This could be another tool in your toolkit, right? You can go in firm placement. You can ask the manager to sponsor you to the MSP. You can sell SOW or a PO. A PO is pretty benign and innocuous for a hiring manager. What that says is, okay, you're going to give me one IT developer. I'm not going to give you a contract. I'm going to cut a purchase order that basically says, I'm encumbering the funds to pay you ABC staffing for this one person. So a purchase order is sometimes what I found, it's not as much skin in the game for the hiring manager. So he or she's willing to cut a PO for my one hire and encumber the funds where I get paid, you as a staffing provider get paid, but it's not like taking a dive writing an SOW contract. So again, put the PO, ask about the PO and put that into your toolkit because oftentimes they'll give you a document that says, hey, I'll pay XYZ for this person. And it gets your foot in the door. This is a great one. Candidate market, guys. So again, just like we would normally, we haven't proven ourselves yet. We're saying we can solve their problems. We're showing them, solutions that we've given other companies that are similar. But candidate market, if they're not ready to do any of this, show them that we're head and shoulders above the rest. Show them we can actually deliver, right? Whether it be direct hire or whether it be for the MSP or SOW or PO. Candidate market. That's really, really helped me get the attention of client leadership. Okay. All right. And then again, asking them to sponsor you. You have nothing to lose. And let's say they won't sponsor you. Okay. There's another route from there. Let's say, well, I don't feel comfortable sponsoring you ABC staffing into the MSP right now. We just met, blah, blah, blah. So ask for introduction. Say, okay, I understand that. Would you be able to introduce me to Sally Jane, that runs the director of programs for the MSP? Ask for the introduction, right? You'll be surprised at how often you can get an introduction just by asking. So don't squander that opportunity. You're at least going to be successful 50% of the time, 60% of the time. I can guarantee it almost. Okay. So your coaches, how many of you develop the coaches in the organization, these advocates, these influencers that kind of want you to succeed and win, and they tell you about things and they help you navigate, right? Hopefully you guys are doing that normally. If you're not, this is a great opportunity to start. Develop your coaches, the hiring managers, the people, anybody in there that's willing to help you navigate and engage leadership and the MSP. Develop your advocates and your influencers. It's really, really going to help you and pay dividends, right? Okay, guys, so what if we do all this stuff, right? We do all this and the MSP resists us. What do you do at this point, right? You've asked all these questions, you've met with coaches, you've met with leadership, you've met with all the MSPers, you've looked for pain, you've shown how you can solve pain, but it's just not the right timing. You know, what are some of the things that you think that you can do in the interim? Because it could take a while, right? We talked about this. Okay. So what you could do is, all right, we can engage in follow-up and value add, right? We talked about what's going to add value to you, Mr. or Miss, you know, MSP, Mr. or Miss client. What can we provide to you that's specific to your industry, to your niche, or to the labor market? So again, ask about value add because that's the great way to follow up. Make sure your mindset, guys, is wired toward long term. Like I said, it probably won't happen overnight, but it will happen. Okay. Just realize it's going to take time like any client. Evolve your solution, right? So think about it, guys. You know, like look at today. We're having I was working with a customer out west this week, and you know, California has a lot of different labor laws. And right now we're having you know, they're losing in some industries, they do light industrial, they're losing workers, right? Because you're having you know, a situation of you know, people losing their jobs that may be leaving the country or being asked to leave the country. And so whatever it is that is impacting their industry, it could be an opportunity for you to come in and give the solution. Oh, wow, maybe you need more contractors. You know, maybe you've lost some of your workforce, you know, within the wine industry that you're supporting, you know, due to citizenship situations, right? So maybe that's an opportunity for you to come in and provide people. Or again, you know, healthcare. Gosh, rural hospitals, you know, out in the middle of the woods somewhere in these small cities, small towns. Maybe they really need people, and that's an opportunity for you to jump in and get into the MSP. So evolve your solution over time based on dynamics that are going on in the labor market and going on with their industry. Evolve it because things are going to come up all the time where you're like, this is a great opportunity, right? Um, Teaming with the MSP, right? And you know, showing relevant results and impact at other clients. Always having the head at your fingertips the ability to showcase how you've shown up, right, for other clients that are similar that are in this area. Okay. And then of course we mentioned, can you sell SOW, right? Can you do direct hire? Great one to lead in with. Direct hire. Can't tell you how many times I did that, guys. And then I mentioned the PO or the work order. You won't give me a direct hire agreement. You won't give me an SOW agreement. I can't get into the MSP. Will you cut me a PO so I can fill this role for you? It's a low risk, low commitment way to get the client to help let you in the door. Okay. Will this MSP let you work with another client? We mentioned that, right? You may be trying to get into client A. Maybe the MSP is going, nope, but I need you over here. I need you to deliver in Phoenix, Arizona for this other client. Maybe they'll let you into a different one. So be sure you're asking about it. Payroll. How many of you guys have actually gotten into a client through payrolling contractors, right? And we never really get excited about it because it's low margin, but how many of you guys have done that? Yes, no, maybe? Okay. What I'd say is, try it. If you can make some money off of that and at least make the rule we had to make, like, after all was said and done, $4 or $5 an hour to make it worth our while. It's a great way to get kind of engaged and get going in a client because now you have contractors there under that MSP umbrella, and it's an opportunity and a reason and an excuse to now reach out and go meet hiring managers and have conversations because you've got billable heads there. So it can be a way in if it makes sense. We mentioned, guys, candidate marketing. Not only to the hiring manager, candidate market the heck to the MSP, right? If you've got skill sets that you know they need, showcase that you're able to go and find these people, right? Strong. How many of you do this final bullet here? Go to join professional associations that are industry specific and go there and meet the MSPs and also meet the end hiring managers. How many people are doing this today? Because this is strong. This is what really helped me and others I worked with to build a book of contract business, especially with big MSPs. If you're not doing this, guys, challenge yourself, throw down the gauntlet to yourself and say, okay, I'm going to join one professional association in my area that relates to what I do. You know, maybe it's accounting, maybe it's a tech IT one, maybe it's something healthcare related. Let's say it's HIMSS or HEMA. Going and join that professional association and get involved. And what I mean by get involved, show up at an event once every 6 weeks, once every 4 weeks, do it with intent, do it with the mindset of I want to meet people, get to know people, because let me tell you what will happen. Not only do you start to showcase yourself as a thought leader because you're part of these professional associations where your clients and the MSPs congregate and hang out, it's going to make your job so much easier. You get to develop relationships with them, rapport building, trust. They're going to actually take your calls when you call them because they know you. They know Ben Mena. Oh, I met Ben at the National Defense Industrial Association last week. Oh, okay. Yeah, he's a pretty good guy. I'm going to call him back. Versus if you're Ben Mena or Kim Henderson and you didn't do this and join that professional association, you're just beating your head through a wall, cold calling and emailing and DMing through LinkedIn and things like that. So again, guys, this will move the needle and put you in front of on the ground client leadership and the MSP. So please challenge yourself on that one. And try to make it fun. It's not as bad as it would sound, right? And look at it this way. You get a nice free lunch or free dinner, maybe free. Complement of remote geography, right? We mentioned that. Maybe you have the ability to give them skill sets they need in Wichita, Kansas, and that's where they're struggling. What jobs are going unfilled right now, Mr. and Miss MSP? Ask for that trial job. If it's feasible, can you offer some type of special pricing? And I'm not a fan, guys, of discounting, right? Because it's usually a race to the bottom. But is there something you can come up with where you can give them some fair value, better value, that is, than what they're currently getting from their other suppliers? Okay. How many of you guys have done this bullet here? How many of you guys have actually subcontracted with an approved supplier and an MSP? Anybody? Okay. While this one here, you know, doesn't always yield a reward, and it could be like I'll call it a slow death with 1,000 paper cuts. We made it work one time. We subcontracted through a company and to do work at PricewaterhouseCoopers, right? We couldn't get in. Lo and behold, we just hit it so hard and with such velocity that we ended up placing so many people on assignment that eventually we were able to get out of that subcontracting agreement and go direct with PwC, right? So what I'd say is investigate it if it makes sense financially and if it makes sense from a business standpoint, can you subcontract, right? So something to think about, ask the questions. The answer could be yes, it could be no. And then finally, utilizing like a teamwork approach, right? So, you know, it's you have people on your team. Your recruiters can help you by identifying candidates that you can go and market, right? Look at how everyone can help you, how you can help. Go out on LinkedIn, post on LinkedIn, become the thought leader. You know, connect to these MSPs, connect to the MSP leaders, follow them, engage with them on their posts. So again, it takes a lot of different tools in the toolkit to use, but it can be done, right? So as we leave today, think about what MSPs you can actually approach tomorrow or Monday, rather, when you get back in. And what are some of the ways that you can do it, given some of the things that we actually learned, right? So, what are your thoughts, guys? Does anyone have some questions that they would like to go over in the chat? All right. I am looking at a few things here. Samantha, you provided consultants PPO insurance. Okay, great. Okay, so some of you have tried these things. What questions do you have? What questions that you could throw out there?
Can you, if you get an MSP, can you do like split deals with other recruiters on them?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's kind of where that subcontract agreement came in. But to that point, to Ben's point, maybe you don't want a subcontract agreement. You don't want to get encumbered with some other staffing firm. What you could do is just say, hey, work with another company. Hey, I've got the person, you've got the MSP relationship. How about we split a deal, right? And go and work on individual deals with another staffing company where they give you X amount per hour, X dollars per hour, that is. So, Ben, that's a great point. There's multiple ways to do it. And then, guys, in Ben's scenario, it kind of gives you an excuse at that point. You team with another staffing company, get a contractor on assignment at MSP, it gives you an excuse now to call in there, meet the hiring manager that the person's working for. Oh, my contractor's working for you. I want to come out and meet you. So it gives you an excuse to get your foot in the door and start to get a hold on the MSP and start to navigate a little bit. So yeah, Ben, that's a great one. What other questions do you guys have? You guys feel like you could approach an MSP with a
Somebody,
couple of
there's a few questions in the Q&A box.
okay. I'm actually in the chat. I'm sorry. Oh,
No,
Q&A.
no
I'm
worries.
sorry. Are there any MSPs working with I mean MSPs are working with startup
Uh,
companies like staffing company?
I think like maybe like your recruiting agency as a startup, like you're just getting started.
Absolutely. I mean, absolutely. What I'd say is, and I think that's Lillian that asked that question. What I would do is you're a startup, but you've got some success stories under your belt at this point, right? You've got something that you've placed, something that you're leading in with. Maybe you're leading in with light industrial or IT or finance and accounting, whatever that is. Put together some success stories of what you already have. You've got something, and showcase that to them, the results that you've gotten, right? And then to your point, find the pain, find the issues that they've got, and your ability to go in and solve those issues for them. And based on what you're providing, Lillian, that's going to vary, right? I hope that makes some sense. Okay. Names of some MSPs in the IT and leadership titles we should reach out to. So in the IT space, Agile One is a big one. Pontoon is a big one. Hays, Hays, Hays also has quite a large market share of MSPs. So there are three big names right there that you can reach out to. Randstad also has their own MSP, right? So those are just some couple of names in that space. Sorry if this has been answered already. How do you reach out to an MSP and find them and navigate this piece? So when you're calling into a company, here's how I would find it. I would call into a company and I'd reach a hiring manager. And the hiring manager would oftentimes tell me, oh, well, we have Agile One in place or Pontoon in place is our MSP. You're going to have to reach out to them. And I would ask him or her, well, who should we reach out to? Who's the program or project manager that's managing that MSP? And they sometimes would give you the name, right? If they didn't give me the name, LinkedIn would be the next place that I would go, right? And I would go through, say, Agile One and go through their searches on program managers, site managers, relationship managers, and start to get the names, right? And then I mentioned earlier, reach out at the corporate level. So I would contact Agile One at the corporate level and start reaching out to the VPs and say, hey, we're a specialist in healthcare recruiting. I know that you have some healthcare customers. We want to learn a little bit more about your programs and see how we can help you. So I hope that helps. But ask the question. That's how I would find them. The hiring manager would usually tell me if I didn't know. Then I would start to go through LinkedIn and get MSP names and start reaching out to those names with calls. And then it would kind of whittle itself out from there. Okay. What else, guys? What else? What else? What else? What else? I'm glad I found the Q&A, Ben. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I was looking at the chat and I'm like, wait a minute, I've neglected the Q&A. So guys, what I'd say is, this can be done, right? There is opportunity here if it's the right MSP for you and you feel like you match their skills and location and their process and rates. Give it some time, find the pain points, put your solution together, focusing on their industry and the problems that they're having, whatever that might be, and continue to beat through that door. Eventually, you'll get in. And when you get in and start to make placements, they're going to come to you and open up doors and other MSP clients that they have underneath their umbrella in their portfolio. Okay. So again, guys, LinkedIn is a great place to find people that work for the MSP and start reaching out and placing calls.
A few more questions dropped.
I'm sorry?
I said a few more questions dropped in the Q&A.
Oh, yeah, we go. Can you quickly talk about your, yeah, thank you, Mr. Anonymous attendee. Yeah, I'm Kim Henderson of Cobalt Compass and provide training and consulting services to the staffing industry. And that's anything from sales and recruiting training through leadership training as well. So feel free to drop me a line if you have any more questions on that through LinkedIn. You could just send me a DM or hit the email on the last page, and I'd be happy to follow up with you and chat a bit. Okay. How would you price it, or is the MSP drive this? That's a great question. It could be either. It could be either. Sometimes the MSP will have pricing in there that could be bill rate driven, which is great because we have the ability to go and make more placements, bill rate, we have some flexibility. Sometimes it will be markup driven, right? And that's where we have two options. If the markup is low, we either walk and we don't work with them, or if the markup is low, have that discussion with them that's consultative that says, we're going to struggle to go and deliver at this rate. How are your other providers doing at this markup, right? And that's what I would want to understand, because if the other providers aren't getting it done at a 45% markup, chances are they have a problem, right, with their rates. So that's what I would do. I would, ask them about their rate structure. If you can navigate through it and it's good, you're good to go. If not, educate why you're not going to be able to be successful in that rate, and see what they're willing to do. Sometimes I've had MSPs that have modified their rates based on data that we have provided them that their rates are too low. So depends where the conversation goes. Okay. In my efforts to connect with decision makers and program managers and MSPs, I found it challenging to determine what programs they oversee. Profiles often lack clear indicators, making targeted outreach difficult. Okay. Strategies or resources would you recommend for doing? Okay, guys, here's probably a good one. How many of you out there, Harry, have Sales Navigator on LinkedIn? Sales Navigator, yes, no, maybe. So guys, I got Sales Navigator a few months ago and I'm still working my way through it, but it's really helpful. You can go and put in so many parameters, right? Like Pontoon, which is an MSP, and you can go and put in the locations. You can put in various position titles, and it not only pulls up the position titles that you're looking for and the names so you can connect to them, it also gives you intel on the account, like locations where they are. It gives you intel like what some of their challenges are that they're having today. It gives you market intel on each one of those MSPs or companies in general. So Harry, I'd say I'm kind of a novice with Sales Navigator, but being into it a few months, it's really helped me to get more info about specific MSPs, narrowed down, it's more targeted versus like if I were just to go and run a search, through LinkedIn and looking for MSPs. So try Sales Navigator, Harry, and it's not that expensive. I think I'm trying to remember what it is. It might
Like 97 a
be,
month or something like that.
yeah, like that. But they have a free trial. They have a free trial, Harry. So try that and see, at least get some quick free information out of them. But it will cobble together and narrow down a targeted approach of these MSPs and give you names based on titles and the search criteria that you put into it. And long story short, Harry, if you're struggling with it, there is an online tutorial for Sales Navigator, like little snippet videos you can watch that'll walk you through it, right? If you're getting stuck. So I would say try it, just play with it over a weekend, because it's really helped me to not just get a laundry list of, 300 people like what we contend with, right? And then finally, Harry, always ask if you're getting a hiring manager on the phone and you're that lucky to do that, and they're responding to you, ask them, who should we be talking to? Who should we be reaching out to from that standpoint? We can help you. Sometimes they'll tell you. Okay. Try Sales Navigator. I want to hear how it went. What else, guys? Anything? Someone does like, it's Heather. Hey, Heather Colvin. It's good to see you. Yes, Sales Navigator. She loves it. It's very, very helpful, guys. Try it. It's a game changer. Really, really good. It's worth the money. Okay. Anything? Any other questions? Any other thoughts? All right. Feel free to reach out to me, guys, on LinkedIn or through email if you have any more questions on this or want to dig into it deeper. I know it's not the easiest topic and it does take time. So happy to help you walk through some scenarios or problems that you might be having and see if I can, apply some WD-40 to it and help you get some movement a little bit more quickly. Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Ben, any questions? What do you have?
No, I think you knocked out all the questions. So we'll give everybody a good like 19-minute break before we get started with the next session about the 500K blueprint for recruiters, how to get there and cross that magical barrier. But Kim, just want to say thank you so much for sharing today.
Thank you.
MSPs really are a way that you can like really just up level and bring a ton more business in. It's just the secret is the fast track on how to get in there. So thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that system.
Yeah, guys, I'll tell you what, if I can do it, trust me, you can do it. It just takes time and consistent outreach, and you'll actually be in there. You just have to have that tenacity with them, but it can work and you can make money. And it's been great. It's great seeing John, great seeing Heather. And guys, contact me if you have any questions. Happy to answer. Have a wonderful weekend, and thank you for your time and attention. We appreciate it.
Bye, guys.
Bye.